Yeah.
Everybody would, it didn't matter whether even a 21-year-old would say, I don't have a printer.
Yeah.
I met one guy, very computer savvy and very with it, but he said, I don't do Word.
Right.
But then if you send a PDF, people will go, well, I can't write on a PDF, because it's in rare circumstances like mine where you have an app and an Apple Pencil and you can write on PDFs. Or people have got Adobe, writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you cannot get every single client be able to satisfy those needs, those technical needs. And yet this Google form, I haven't had a single person who says, sorry, I can't reply, I can't return that. And some of my clients are 72.
Right.
And so it's not a generational thing. It's not whether you've got a printer or whatever documentation you've got on your computer. So,
great. So let me just, by way of a brief intro, because I've just put on the recording, just say I'm speaking with Elizabeth McBarnet, and this came up because of one of our meetings we were in, talking about accessing client information at the beginning of treatment, before you've actually seen the client. What are the very first introductory steps, and how to manage the paperwork that's involved. And I was very taken with your solution, Elizabeth, which was to create a Google form, because as you've just been saying, there's the problem of sending out a pile of documents, asking people to maybe print them off, sign them, send them back, scan them. There's a lot of poppycock has to go on there. And you came up with, you came up with a very nice solution. Now, what I've done is I've got a tab open with your actual link on it. So if I open that, maybe you can talk us through it then.
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and the wonderful thing about Google Forms is that you can gather the basic contact information that you can see here. But then as you scroll down, is this the one where you can see all the way through down to the next level? Oh, no, so you have to actually fill this in.
Yeah, that's right. That's fine. I have it pre-filled in, actually.
So can you go to the next page with what
yes, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's wonderful that instead of having a consent form and a contact details form, and then if you want to video them for supervision purposes, you need another form with them signing their consent. So I've just made different sections on one form. Yes, admittedly, this form does go on a bit, but it doesn't take very long. It's just like the outcome measures, which our clients are used to if they're using Pragmatics Tracker.
Yeah.
So there I've got links to my own website with the confidentiality agreement and data protection. And I think, no, I haven't got the data protection one. There's certainly the agreements. I've got a number of different forms that I send to different clients. And then as you see that they are able to actively opt in or out of all sorts of consent. First of all, that they wish to receive therapy. But then that they've read the agreements. If they haven't read them, well, that's like the rest of us, it's up to them. They choose not to read it, but they still say that they've read it, and then that covers us. And they can opt in or out. And as we were discussing earlier, I Googled up on the ICO, the Information Commissioner's website, and it clearly states that ticking a box on an online form is an active, unambiguous indication by clear affirmative action, which is ticking a box. Right.
So this is very important in our sort of post-COVID world, isn't it? Where there's a lot more therapy taking place online, whereas in the past, a client would come in the door and have that first appointment and could actually be physically given forms and then sign the form. Now, with a lot of the time, if treatment is being conducted online, it's how do you get around that and how do you manage all that sort of paperwork stuff? So this is a very neat way of bringing it all together. Yeah. And of course, people have asked me many times over the years, well, is there not a way of doing this within Pragmatic Tracker? But the challenge with that really is that you can't use the same mechanism to get permission to use the mechanism. So you can't really use Pragmatic Tracker to get permission from a client to have their data entered in Pragmatic Tracker. Right. It's like you need a preliminary stage, first of all, Yeah.
And this I find is really easy. I mean, you literally click on, you embed a link into your email, and then all
so
I have to do
just going back to that, you've got your links here. Now, if I click on one of those, I think it'll jump me across to what that actually is. I think it's loading. There we go. So this is actually great, more or less taken from the templates provided by the Human Givens Institute, isn't it? Yeah. So that's the confidentiality agreement, and then whatever the other one is. The other one, I'll click on the other one as well. So this is a way of sharing all of this information with the client. They can download the forms as well, of course, if they want to keep them. And this is all about your cost, which is very good value at the moment, I see.
Yeah, very good value. And again, that's the Human Givens template that I've used. And actually, I've just realized I need to have another one up there, which is, for my speech therapy clients, I have the data processing form as well, the protection of their data.
I see.
But it also does say at the beginning of my form, the Google form, that all your data will be stored securely and kept confidential. If you scroll down, Bill, there's something I've added since you and I were talking, which is that I'm giving consent for their video sessions to be recorded and giving the reasons why.
Right, okay.
Because I'm still a trainee. And so what happens is, and it's going to happen later today, I will be able to record straight away to get the very first moments that we meet each other. And during that recording, I will get confirmation, I'll get spoken confirmation that they're happy for me to record it.
I see.
So that I'll actually have that on video. But because they've already ticked that box giving their consent, then I can start and then get them to confirm that on individual case.
Fantastic. So Elizabeth, if I've understood correctly, I'm a client here. I've gone through this form. I tick all the boxes and submit to you. What happens then? I haven't yet seen you now or anything. I've made contact with you. I've made an inquiry. I want to come to you for treatment. You send me out the link with a covering email, I suppose. Do you, or something?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. What happens is that I then I created a new Gmail account, separate Gmail accounts, just to receive these. And so I will then get an email that says you've had a form submission, and then I get the whole thing in the body of the email, and attached to the bottom of that is a little PDF link, and I can then drag that PDF onto my desktop and then plop it into Pragmatic Tracker.
I see. So you're using the document upload feature of Pragmatic Tracker to put your that's really neat. Yeah. So you've got it all. You've got it.
It's very neat. And so I've got consent and contact details and the basic information that I might have asked on the Human Givens client details form. I've basically amalgamated the three of those into one. So the client will spend 5 to 10 minutes doing the one form, and I then store that in Pragmatic Tracker, and I've got a note of their consent, their doctor, and all of that. And then I can also use the information from that to fill in the fields on Pragmatic Tracker if I haven't already gone through it with the client. That means I don't necessarily have to ask them all those questions, because
all those questions all over again. Yeah. Fantastic. So tell me, if somebody's completely new to all of this and doesn't know where to start, where's the very first place to go? You mentioned there they need to set up a Gmail account. So what do you do? Do you go, how do I set up a Gmail account?
Yeah, exactly. And I've learned all of this by Googling. I mean, I found this out because I sat there thinking, I'm sick of all these forms. My clients aren't able to fill them in. And my approach with computers is there is a way to do this. I don't know how to do it. It's always, there is a way. So I Googled how to get a PDF from a Google form.
I see.
And eventually, after hours and hours of racking my brains, I made it in a slightly clumsy way. So the basic, I'm not going to talk through how to set up a Gmail account.
No.
It's something that will be explained on the web.
Yeah, in fact, if you just bear with me 1 second, I simply Googled Google Forms, and I'll just show you the screen that it sort of came to. So, create beautiful forms. So all the information is there. And a Google, in my experience with Google, the help is very, very good as well.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
If you get stuck with something, it's pretty easy to do. So basically, you use this Google Forms to create this form, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I notice you're able to input your own logo at the top and everything. So it doesn't, it looks like it's definitely coming from you, doesn't it?
I mean,
if I go to Google Drive, to my drive, can you go new form then from here? All right. Oh, I see. So when you're on Google Drive, you just go to Google Forms. I see.
yeah.
This is how
So there you go.
There you go.
Right.
And that's the start
So
of the process.
if you just expand, or maybe it's me that needs to expand, just so that we can see the very edges of your, even when you're where your face is. Maybe it's my screen actually. Oh yeah, that's better. I can see it. Okay. So the way that I customized it, if you now click on the little artist's palette on the top right, all those different instructions there. See the artist's palette coming down a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there.
Here,
click on that. That's where you get to customize it.
Ah, right. Okay.
And you can choose your color. So you can select a different colored background.
Yeah, I see.
So
oh, yes, I see.
Yeah. And then if you want to do the header, click on choose image.
Choose image.
And you can either upload your own, or they give you all these beautiful templates, and I've used a number of them for different forms that I've done. And they've got endless different options so that you can set the mood, basically.
You can, yeah, I see, yeah. So that's, I see. So I could have had a banner of my own website logo or the name of my organization or whatever it might be.
Because somewhere along there will be the option to upload your own picture. So then you go ahead, and the wonderful thing is when you're doing a Google form is that you've got the different, if you in the different box that says multiple choice on that first box there, you can have a tick box, so you can go for check boxes, and you can have yes and no, or you can choose short answer, paragraph. So if you say name, you would say short answer.
I see.
If you said, tell me about your difficulties, you could click on paragraph, which gives them an unlimited amount of writing
space. I see.
Okay. And then you can also have the linear scale. If you go down to that, Bill, and just click on that, that means I've got one question which is on a scale of 1 to 10. And you can change what the linear scale is. That's 1 to 5, but you can make it 1 to 10. How much is your problem affecting you today? So it's beginning to get a bit of scaling in for the human givens. So, Bill, if you just click on the 5 there on that box, then you can
make it 1 to 10 or 0 to 10 or whatever I want it to be.
And you would label 0, not bothering me at all, and 10 bothering me very much, or no problem. Whatever. Yeah.
Lots of problems.
Okay.
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
And then that little, if you go to the sidebar with the plus and the page and the T and everything, this one, sorry, I keep pointing you. Yeah, that one. That tells you what you can do. So if you then want to add another question, you just go up to plus.
Oh, I see.
And then you get your next.
You're on to the next one. I see.
You can every single question. Now you can also add a little description. So if you go to the 3 dots at the bottom.
Yeah, here.
Then you can add a description, which gives you some time. This is where I wrote, this is why I want your consent to video. And I wrote quite a lot in that. So you can explain exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing is that at the very bottom where it says required.
Yeah. It's mandatory.
Yeah. So if you click that, then they cannot move on to the next question until they've answered that.
Wow. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So what I've got on some of mine is, for instance, I have one of my speech therapy forms. It's a social questionnaire asking people about their family, their contacts, the members in their family, so that I can talk to a person who's had a stroke and can't talk to me. Right. And so I've put list your family members required. Then I've added a box, here's your overflow box, and that's not required. So if they have extra stuff to write in, you can just give them another box, but make it non-mandatory.
I see. Okay, so that's fantastic. So basically, in order to get access to this facility, you have to basically have a Gmail email address, don't you? You've got to have a Gmail account. By having a Gmail account, it gives you access to G Drive. And when you've got access to G Drive, you can get access to Google Forms.
And it's all
And
free.
you build your form, and that form, I presume, will then have a unique URL address. Is that right?
Yeah. So if you click on send,
Yeah.
you can choose how to send that form.
I see.
So, and if you want to collect people's emails, but I don't because of the data protection side of it, but also if you want to collect them on a mailing list, for instance, you can do that. So you can either just send via email directly, where you on that, and then if you click on the hyperlink, what I like is that you can click shorten URL.
All right.
Copy the URL.
And then you can copy that and paste that into your initial welcome email that you send to the client, and you say, please fill in this form before your appointment or whatever it is. Yeah. Really lovely. That's very, very neat.
Yeah.
As I say, I've had, questions about this. And funny enough, very recently, we've done development work within Pragmatic Tracker for organizations. So, for example, we're working with some universities with counseling services, and they have a standard, what we call self-referral form, which populates straight into Pragmatic Tracker.
All right.
And that's good. It's really good. But the challenge when you get, let's say, a very wide group of therapists like human givens therapists, is that, like yourself now, you do speech therapy as well as human givens. And some therapists will be, let's say, particularly working, PTSD resolution would be an example where they're working mainly with veterans. Others might be working with children. Other people might be working with families. So the requirements will change therapist by therapist. And what I really like about this is that you can sort of design this around your specific needs, can't you?
Yeah. And I have about 9.
Sorry?
I have about 9 Google forms.
Oh, have you?
So I have a contact and consent for human givens, contact and consent for speech therapy, feedback form, outcome measures for speech therapy, COVID questionnaire for people who come into my clinic so that they can say they haven't got COVID and they're vaccinated. And it's also got a disclaimer, so they tick that to say, I accept that if I get COVID, I'm not going to blame you. I've also got a social questionnaire one, and I use anything where I think I need to gather information online. I just build a form. They all look a bit different with different backgrounds. They've all got my Listenary logo on it. And it's just transformed the ability to get electronic information when you might not ever see someone face to face.
Yeah, fantastic. The thing is, all of this is important because it's the correct process to be doing. And also it's important because, God forbid you ever need it, but if you do, you have it. That's the thing, isn't it? It's like none of us ever want to be confronting situations where, you've got questions being asked. Did you get proper permission from the client? Blah, blah, blah. But you need to have a process in place to know that it's rock solid and you've definitely done it,
The greatest asset that I have is an imaginary, very hostile NHS manager who's got a chip on her shoulder, and she looks over my shoulder with everything I do, asking me to justify why I'm doing it. And I justify myself to her all the time, and it makes sure I keep up best practice. Because I just imagine this ghastly woman who I may or may not have met in the past, and just saying, well, have you got consent, and what would happen if this went wrong, and are you covered with your data protection, and have you got, and I go, yes, I can.
Yeah, and of course, it's an awful lot when you're first starting out in practice, isn't it, to take on board. I mean, you go through the human givens training, it's pretty intense. There's such a lot to learn, such a lot to do. There's a lot of pressure with getting through your part 3 process and all the rest of it. And then on top of that, you're starting out in practice and you've got to think of all the business aspects of this as well. And I think the important thing is getting these processes in place early, isn't it? Because then once you've got them in place early, you set up a good routine for yourself, if you like.
And certainly with data processing, with the GDPR Act, we have to decide upon what basis we are processing people's data. And the basis that I process data is consent.
Consent, that's right.
Therefore, you have to have evidence of their consent.
Yeah, you do,
That's
of course.
that's the whole basis of processing people's data and
Yeah.
keeping it safe.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I found is, what I love about these forms is I tweak them all the time. And
Right.
although it's nice to get them set up at the beginning of your practice, anytime something comes up, you can sit there when you've got half an hour over a cup of tea, go
Yeah.
into your form, you can change the color scheme, you can add another question, you
Yeah.
can change it and tweak it and improve it as you
Yeah.
develop. And it's not set in stone like it's not like a PDF where you've got to go back to your Word. I mean, yes, okay, that's easy enough to change a Word document and
Yeah.
PDF it, but these forms are much more malleable.
Yeah, and I think you're really getting the point across there, that which I think is very important, that therapist by therapist, you've got to allow that flexibility, because what might be a very important thing for you to ask, I might not use at all, and somebody else might have something completely different that's really important to them, you know.
Yeah.
I know some therapists who are very interested and involved in nutrition, and they might want to focus on, you know, some aspect of that they want
Well, they
to
could add a section, and that's the other thing. You can have the contact details section, your basic medical information section, nutrition if you want that, and then your consent. And if it's 4 sections long, it's still going to be an awful lot less work than filling out 4 separate forms.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Tell me, Elizabeth, I mean, you're quite recent to the whole human givens thing, aren't you? And
I started training in 2020, and I'm hoping to get my accreditation in the summer this year.
You hope to get it in the summer this year. Okay. Yeah. Can I just ask you, did you get involved with Pragmatic Tracker right at the very beginning, of like as soon as you started seeing clients? And what prompted you to do that? Was it that you heard it in the training, or was it your supervisor, or?
Heard it in the training. I realized that it was going to be a great way to get into a good habit for outcome measures. Because in the past with speech therapy, I've been a bit dismissive of outcome measurement because it's been for the wrong reasons, and I've found it very limiting. And I wanted to explore Pragmatics Tracker. And when I started looking at it, I just found it very useful, very intuitive. I found it, you know, a useful thing to do. Still struggle sometimes to get my clients to comply and fill in the form, but then we do it together. You know, some really embrace it and send me the information when I ask for it. And some people are just a little bit slower. I think they're the people who aren't friendly with computers.
Yes, that's right.
But no, I've enjoyed it from the very beginning, and it makes sense. And I used to store client notes in my own note-keeping system, and then upload them to Pragmatic, and then copy and paste them. But I've actually stopped keeping any human givens details in my own note system. I just exclusively keep it boxed up in Pragmatics Tracker, especially now that the consent form can be kept in.
Can be part of that process as well. Yeah. Fantastic. That's so helpful, and I think this will be hopefully very helpful to a lot of other people as well. So I'll put a video together and send out a little news bulletin to people anyway, you know.
Okay, I hope the garble makes sense. I'm sorry if it was a bit.
Oh no, it's fine. I'll go back over it and have a look through and stuff like that, and yeah, we can sort it out. Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much, and I've no doubt we'll be in touch. I'll keep you updated when I'm doing a next session for everybody anyway, you know.
Excellent. Okay, Bill.
Lovely job. Thanks ever so much for your time.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.